Written tightly with no fluff, repetition, or filler. Focused purely on strong narrative and emotional progression. I used to believe we were the kind of couple people envied. Our love wasn't loud or performative, it was quiet and consistent. Daniel had a way of making life feel settled. We met during our final year of college. He was calm, thoughtful, ambitious. I was idealistic and driven. Somehow we fit. We got married 3 years later, in a small ceremony, with only close friends and family. It was simple. Honest. Just like him. For years, things were good. We shared routines. Grocery trips on Sundays. Netflix marathons with takeout. Text messages in the middle of workdays that just said, "Miss you." We talked about everything, even the hard things. Or at least I thought we did. He supported my career, without hesitation. I cheered him on when he launched his own design business. We grew up together. And I trusted him without question. Then little things started shifting. I didn't notice at first. A missed call here. A late return from work there. He'd joke about how exhausted he was, and I accepted it. We all get tired. But something about his tired felt different. He became distracted during conversations, like his mind was somewhere else. Sometimes I'd ask a question, and he'd respond 10 seconds later, like he'd just snapped back into the room. I'd catch him looking at his phone, and quickly putting it away. I didn't want to be the suspicious wife, so I ignored it. One night, we were folding laundry, and I noticed a faint mark on the collar of his dress shirt. Lipstick. A soft coral shade I didn't wear. I raised an eyebrow and laughed, trying to play it off. He didn't flinch. Said it was from a client who hugged him after a presentation. "She's overly affectionate," he added with a smirk. I believed him. Or I wanted to. The next few days, I tried to shake the feeling. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was projecting stress from work. But my body felt tense around him. Something about the way he looked at me had changed. Not colder, just distant. Like I was a familiar object in his life, not someone he deeply saw anymore. Still, I told myself every marriage goes through phases. We'd been together 8 years. Comfort sometimes blurs into complacency. I made his favorite dinner. I wore the dress he once said made me look like his dream girl. He said thank you, kissed my forehead, and scrolled through his phone before dessert. I stood in the kitchen that night, staring at the sink, wondering if I was imagining things. I told myself to stop overthinking, to let it go. But something deep inside me, quiet but certain, whispered, "Pay attention." I didn't know it yet, but everything I thought I knew about my life, about him, was already unraveling. And soon, I'd have to face a version of the truth I never thought possible. He started keeping his phone face down. Notifications no longer popped up. His laughter at random messages was followed by silence when I asked what was funny. "Just work stuff," he'd say, slipping the phone back into his pocket. I didn't push, but I noticed. I noticed everything. He'd leave the house earlier, return later. Claimed deadlines were piling up, client meetings were running over. Traffic was worse. Once, I offered to drop by his office with lunch. He told me not to. It was chaotic, not a good time. He was always tired, too tired to talk, too tired to be touched. He kissed me less. The space between us grew slowly, but steadily, like a door closing inch by inch. Then I found the second toothbrush in his gym bag. Not a travel brush. A woman's. Pink handle. Worn bristles. He said it was his coworker's. They were staying late at the office, and she probably forgot it in his bag after freshening up. "It's nothing," he said. "She's married." His voice was calm. Too calm. My stomach turned. I stopped sleeping through the night. I kept waking up at 3 a.m., eyes wide, heart racing. Some nights, he wasn't even home by then. "Got pulled into something last minute," he'd mumble. No apology. No warmth. Just a routine excuse. I stopped believing him. One morning I opened Instagram and found a message request from a private account. No profile picture. Just a few words. "You should know the truth." Attached was a photo. Daniel, sitting at a hotel bar, smiling. holding hands with a woman I'd never seen before. Her face was turned, but the intimacy was unmistakable. They weren't friends. They weren't colleagues. They were something else. I sat there, staring at the image, heart frozen. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even move. I just kept thinking, this isn't real. Maybe it's edited. Maybe it's a mistake. But deep down, I already knew it wasn't. I waited until dinner. I placed my phone on the table with the message open. I didn't say anything, just looked at him. He glanced at the screen and shrugged. Someone's playing games, he said. That's not even recent. His eyes didn't flinch. His tone didn't change. He was rehearsed. He'd been here before. I asked who she was. He said she was nobody, that he barely knew her, that it was innocent, that he loved me, and only me, but none of it sounded real. His words were empty air, like smoke trying to fill a broken room. He brushed it off like it was an inconvenience. Like my suspicion was the problem, not his betrayal. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just nodded, stood up, and walked away. That night, as he slept soundly next to me, I lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling, knowing that something was broken. And I wasn't sure it could be fixed. I didn't confront him again. I needed the truth, not another denial. So, I found a private investigator. Quiet. Discreet. I gave him Daniel's schedule, photos, license plate, the basics. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted facts. It took 3 days. The investigator called me on a Thursday. Said he had what I needed. We met at a small cafe. He handed me a file. Photos, receipts, timestamps. Daniel and the same woman. Her name was Sophia. She worked with him. 27. Divorced. They'd been meeting for weeks. Dinners, hotels, out-of-town conferences that weren't real. The file even had call logs, late-night conversations, sometimes lasting hours. He wasn't just cheating. He was building something behind my back. I went home, sat on the floor, and went through every page. Each image felt like a slap. Every receipt was a lie he told me. The worst part wasn't what he did, it was how easy he made it look. Like our marriage was disposable. Like I was just background noise. When he came home that night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I waited until he sat down. Then I put the folder in front of him. No words. Just the truth, laid out. He stared at it. His face changed slowly. At first, confusion. Then recognition. Then fear. He didn't deny it. Didn't argue. Just whispered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I asked how long. He said 2 months. I knew that was a lie. I asked why. He said he didn't know. Said he felt lost, that things had slipped. Said it wasn't about me. Said he still loved me. Every sentence was an excuse pretending to be honesty. I sat across from him, numb. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't rise. I asked if he loved her. He said no. I asked if he'd ended it. He hesitated. That was all I needed. I looked at the man I once knew and realized he wasn't there anymore. This wasn't about a one-time mistake. This was a choice. Repeated. Protected. Hidden. Every lie he told was a brick in a wall between us, and he built it with both hands. He reached for me, said he could fix it, that we could try therapy, start fresh. I said nothing. I stood up, walked upstairs, and packed a bag. One bag. Just the essentials. I left my ring on the kitchen counter. As I closed the front door, I didn't feel anger. I felt empty. Like someone had taken the life I built and erased it without warning. But beneath the numbness, something else stirred. Not hope. Not yet. But clarity. And that was the beginning of everything I needed. I stayed with my sister the first week. She didn't ask questions. Just made space. I spent hours in silence, staring at nothing. I wasn't grieving a person. I was grieving a version of my life that no longer existed. The mornings were the hardest. Waking up and remembering everything. The reality crashing in before I could build up walls. Daniel messaged. Called. Emailed. At first, just questions. Then apologies. Then long, emotional texts begging for another chance. I didn't reply. I didn't block him, either. I wanted to see how far he'd go. I wanted to see what he thought redemption looked like. He sent flowers. I threw them away. He left a letter on my car windshield, handwritten, pages long. It said I was the best thing that ever happened to him, that he hated himself, that Sophia meant nothing, that he missed my laugh, my cooking, the way I touched his back when I walked past him. I read it once. Then I burned it. I started going to therapy. I wasn't looking for answers. I needed perspective. I didn't want to stay broken. The therapist said something that stayed with me. You can forgive someone and still decide they don't get access to you again. That line shifted something inside me. I had spent so long believing love was supposed to endure anything. But survival isn't love. Loyalty without honesty is just self-destruction. I returned to work, took on new projects, pushed myself, not to escape, but to rebuild. Slowly, I started doing things for myself again. Little rituals, books I never finished, walks with no destination, journaling. Not about him, about me. What I wanted. What I deserved. Who I was before I became his wife. Daniel stopped trying after a while. Maybe he realized I was serious. Or maybe he found someone else to lie to. It didn't matter anymore. His silence was a gift. One less voice trying to rewrite the truth. 6 months passed. Then one day I laughed again, really laughed. I don't remember what triggered it. But I remember the feeling. Light. Clean. Like air after a storm. I was still healing, still scarred. But I wasn't stuck. I wasn't waiting for someone to make it right. I had done that myself. I don't hate him. I don't love him either. What I feel now is distance. Perspective. I see what he did and who he was. But I also see who I became because of it. Stronger. Clearer. Unapologetically myself. He broke the story we were writing together. But I picked up the pen and started a new one. Not to replace him. Not to erase the past. But to tell the truth in full. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose next. And for the first time in years, that choice is only mine.